Not sure who let him do it, but President Joe Biden held a press conference Wednesday where he answered reporters' questions on everything from Ukraine, Afghanistan, the economy, the supply chain, and the stellar job he thinks he's been doing while the country circles the drain. They say you lose flexibility as you get older, yet somehow Biden managed to not once, not twice, but repeatedly get his foot lodged in his own mouth in a gymnastic feat so impressive it rivals that time that he couldn't get up a flight of stairs. This presser was basically the verbal equivalent of doing a faceplant off of Air Force One, given that much of it sounded, well, like this.
Is becoming much more informed on the motives of some of the political players and some of the political parties.
Huh? Joe Biden's Wednesday presser, which lasted 2 whole hours and was about an hour and 59 minutes longer than it should have been, was riddled as usual with gaffes, falsehoods, blunders, and goofs. Hilarious until you remember that this fool is supposedly in charge of running the country. First off, we've got Joe here, President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief of the world's greatest fighting force, little things like that. Here's Joe calling a potential Russian invasion of Ukraine a minor incursion.
And so I think what you're going to see is that Russia will be held accountable if it invades. And it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, etc.
That little oopsie reportedly left Kiev officials shocked and stunned while they were watching over across the pond. Not sure why, though. I get why you'd be upset, given that Biden basically just rolled out the red carpet for a full-scale military assault by a totalitarian regime against their democratic country. Bummer. But this is also the fool who figured we'd just hit the eject button on 20 years in Afghanistan without getting all of our people out first. So, hey, not exactly playing with a full deck here, guys. Now, speaking of Afghanistan, which was such a god-awful bungled mess that even liberals had a hard time giving Biden cover, Biden said he makes no apologies for what he did when he yanked all of our troops out, abandoned our allies, left U.S. citizens stranded, and turned the keys over to the Taliban on his way out the door.
There is no way to get out of Afghanistan after 20 years easily. Not possible, no matter when you did it. And I make no apologies for it.
No apologies? No apologies to the 13 U.S. service members who were blown to kibbles and bits outside the Hamid Karzai International Airport last August. No apologies to the U.S. allies and their families who were abandoned to be hunted down by the Taliban. What about all the little girls who've been sold to Islamic militant perverts? This baby girl right here, look at her face. According to a report published last October by the BBC, she was sold into marriage to a Taliban fighter by her starving family for $500. And it's happening more frequently since our exit. But I guess Biden's not apologizing to her for beating feet out of her country and leaving a black hole for a bunch of terrorists to fill. Back home, of course, we've got our own problems, and Bare Shelves Biden doesn't think that any of them could possibly be his fault. Here's Joe saying the supply chain crisis didn't happen.
A couple of months ago, in this very room, we heard dire warnings about how the supply chain problems could create a real crisis around the holidays. So we acted. We brought together business and labor, and that much predicted crisis did not occur. 99% of the packages were delivered on time, and shelves were stocked.
Huh? The crisis did... Huh? Because here's a photo of the shelves of my own local grocery store on Tuesday. The entire produce section, meat aisle, and milk fridge were empty, and I mean empty. My husband just flew to Ohio to pick up a car we'd bought online because we couldn't find the one we needed on any lot within 200 miles of us, and the dealership we finally purchased it from couldn't find a driver to deliver it. And those are just my piddly little problems. Schools have struggled to feed children because they can't get food shipments. Elderly people have reported missing their pharmacy deliveries, but, sure, Joe, none of it happened. Memory loss must be fun. Of course, that's all easy to say when you think you've done a bang-up job. Here's Joe saying he did better at this whole president thing than anybody expected.
Did you overpromise to the American public what you could achieve in your first year in office? And how do you plan to course correct going forward?
Why are you such an optimist? Look, I didn't overpromise, but I have probably outperformed what anybody thought would happen.
You have a 40% approval rating, Joe. The only people who like you are triple mask wearing COVID ninnies and anyone who's been in a coma for the past year. And I'm fairly certain you're starting to lose them. Gas prices are up, inflation's at a 40-year high, store shelves are empty, 600,000 more people have died from the virus you promised to stop but didn't. What world is anybody impressed with this? What drugs do they have you on? And of course, the cherry on top of this giant garbage heap of suck was Joe Biden, unable to answer why a majority of Americans think his antenna must not be picking up all the channels.
Why do you suppose such large segments of the American electorate have come to harbor such profound concerns about your cognitive fitness? Thank you.
I have no idea.
Just a quick note. If you're ever asked why most people think you've got the wattage of a broken chandelier in a haunted house, don't answer with "I have no idea." Because that's the point, Joe. We know you don't. You have no clue what to do about Russia, why Afghanistan was such a mess, why people are pissed that their grocery bill is going up and their ability to get what they need is going down, how to fix the border crisis or deal with COVID, what year it is, or where you put your bifocals. You have no idea. And that's the problem. And that's your reality check, America. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble pages, like us on Facebook and Twitter, and stay sane out there.